Right. Well, we will go ahead and get started. I want to make sure I'm going to check the participants here. Make sure the right people are here. So guys, what I'd like you all to do here is to make sure that you have your microphones on, be ready to talk, because what we're going to talk about a lot today is, concerns or client concerns around rates and fees. We know that margin compression is coming back again here. And we want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to kind of talk through what some of your challenges are when you're talking to clients about it. If you're a real estate agent, how are you managing, commission conversations? If you're a mortgage professional, how are you managing, rate fee type conversations? So I'm not going to share my screen today because there's a ton of writing on these, and I want to make sure everybody kind of focuses on the content. We'll send the slide deck out afterwards. I'll share my screen a couple times just to show some of the things I'm referring to, but other than that, we'll just kind of walk through it. So please feel free to raise your hand, type something in the chat. I'd love to unmute you guys and hear kind of what your thoughts or concerns are in regards to what you're hearing and what you're experiencing with your clients. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, so today's call is all about how to use art of home ownership to really show your real value. And it's funny, as I prep for these calls, as I do the kind of research and try and find what's out there, if you want to do yourself a favor, go to YouTube and type in like how to handle pricing exceptions or price conversations, and you will find the absolute worst advice in the world. I found myself getting upset, like visibly angry, as I was listening to these YouTube videos because they were just so terrible. It was all about, how to tell your client why overcoming price objections and concerns, and you have to sell yourself and create relationships, and it was comical, right? So it gives me even more belief in what we're doing here, both short term and long term. So I wanted to first start by making sure everyone knew why we started Art of Home Ownership. Like why does this exist? And some of you may know this, but for years, my team specifically focused on customer service, right? That was our thing. We were really, really great at the client experience. We had a class we trained on for the 5-star client experience. Our realtors would come sit through it and just be blown away by what we do for our clients and how that process works and the pageantry of it all. And it worked really well for quite some time when interest rates were low and clients weren't shopping a ton, and it was still relatively easy. Now, that was what we experienced a lot of last year, right? Interest rates were low, clients weren't doing a lot of shopping. As long as the rate started with a 2, they were pretty happy, and now we're facing some price compression. Real estate agents have really always been facing it, right? There's, at least in Orange County, I think there's 35,000 licensed agents, and there was only like 33,000 homes sold, right? So both in real estate and in the mortgage world, we're facing price compression. So I realized, look, if people are going to just, like our service, but not utilize our team because they didn't see value in it, we had to change that. And our value couldn't just be customer service, couldn't be speed, it couldn't be education or advice. Now, those are all great things, and you should absolutely do all those things. But we had to be able to show long-term value, right? We had to show how we can move the needle in their life, which is really how Art of Home Ownership was created. And so the first thing I would ask you all to do, if you have not already, is don't use the word sales anymore, right? You are not a salesperson. You are not in sales. You are not selling anything. Right? You're an advisor and you're a consultant, and you never actually sell anything. You educate people. You give them advice on what you believe because of your knowledge in the industry. You consult them through ups and downs and trying times and good times in their lives. We don't actually have anything to sell, right? We educate people on what might be in their best interest. And because we aren't selling anything, we aren't really concerned with the outcome, right? As long as it's the best outcome for the client, that's all we care about. And when our team stopped selling, we just learned to ask the right questions. So let that sink in with you for a second. If you're an Art of Home Ownership partner, You're not concerned if the client buys a home, sells a home, or refinances a home. Your only concern is that they do what's best for their family with the most appropriate person or with the most appropriate company. Now, obviously, we believe we are the most appropriate mortgage company. You believe you're the most appropriate mortgage company or the most appropriate real estate company. So now the whole thing is just to ask the right questions so we can then help them understand how we're going to solve problems and help them kind of reach their goals. First thing you do there is a client intake, dreams and goals call, right? As we talked about. And if you're a real estate professional, absolutely make sure that your mortgage professionals are doing this. It will make all the difference in the world in both of your relationships. And even more, other than just that dreams and goals call, is what are the real client goals? Like, people don't buy a house to buy a house. There's some underwriting goal around that. Like, they want to grow their wealth. They see that as an investment. They see it as a forced savings account. They see it as a place of safety and security. They want to then move up to a bigger home at some point, or buy investment properties, or be able to retire differently than they would have if they rented their entire life. Find out what those real goals are. Why are they investing in real estate at all, right? And then ask them, who's going to help you accomplish all those goals? Or do you believe that's squarely on your shoulders? I think those things are going to really help you stand out. And then recap those questions and show solutions. So I've heard you, Mr. Smith, I heard you say this. I realize you want to do that. It's important to you that this happens. Let me tell you how we're going to be a partner to you in this. So make sure you're showing your real value there. Another thing you want to do is stretch your time horizon. I guess another way of putting it, stretch their time horizon. Most people believe that they kind of oversimplify their needs, right? They think that they just need a mortgage, right? So if they just need a mortgage, then they would, kind of put their mortgage card into an ATM and get a mortgage. So it's your responsibility, or same thing with buying a home, right? Your job, your responsibility as an art of homeownership professional is to help them think bigger, help them think long-term, help them focus on outcome, not just the transaction at hand. Right? Clients think they need to go from A to B in a transaction, or getting a mortgage, or buying or selling a home. You really need to show them how they need to go from A to Z. And they're probably not contemplating C through Z, right? They're just going to deal with that at some point later. But when you point that out, once they're aware of the complexity of their needs, right, that's when they'll start to realize that they need your value-added solutions. And that's really what Art of Homeownership is about, right? It's showing people how you can help them long-term, how you can elevate them to become, more successful in real estate and finance, how you can help them grow generational wealth. But most of the people don't even know what it is that they need. They don't know how complex this is. They don't know the difference between just getting a mortgage and utilizing an Art of Homeownership professional, or just buying and selling a home and partnering with an Art of Homeownership professional. So make sure to point that out. It's really important. And again, a lot of this is dealing with pricing concerns. So as you do this, price concerns become less and less important. When somebody realizes, like, if I were going to go in and buy a pair of shoes, and I went online, I have 4 different stores, and I saw 4 different pairs, same pair of shoes, 4 different places, 4 different prices. But one person told me the complexity of, what that shoe is going to do for me, how it's going to help, how they're going to follow up with me and make sure that the sole's still in place and that it's going to help my knees over time. Like, again, shoes aren't that complex. But if someone were to give me the complexities, and if there were an incredible amount of them that I wasn't aware of, that would be the person I'd want to solve that problem. So you have to point that out. Another thing you want to do is you want to show future state realities, right? So story sell around them, quantify what they could lose. I'm going to share some of them with you here, and you could utilize them as your own, right? Now, obviously, don't say you did them. You don't want to lie or be disingenuous to anybody, but you can just say, look, a partner I work with, because that would be true, right? A partner I work with had this, that, and the other happen. So one is, we had a client who came into our office. This was pre-COVID, a bit of an elderly lady. And she said, look, I was referred to you guys. I heard you had great interest rates, and I want to get the best interest rate. I want to refinance my FHA mortgage. And we said, okay. So we sat down, we started talking, and I said, look, I know you want the best interest rate, and I know that's important to you. And we talked to her about, interest rate complexities and the way the market moves and points and fees and all that kind of stuff. And she says, well, I appreciate all that, but again, I still just want the best interest rate. I said, well, let me ask you a question. When you got this mortgage with Bank of America, 7 years ago, you took out an FHA mortgage. You still have that mortgage today. Like, were you aware that there was probably 10 times in the last 7 years that you could have refinanced that mortgage, got out of your FHA mortgage insurance and saved thousands and thousands of dollars? And she says, yeah, but I just never got around to it. I knew it, but I'm doing it now. And I said, well, ma'am, I appreciate that, but I think the problem is you believe that's your responsibility. With us and our team, we believe it's ours. Like, if you were to have done that initial FHA loan with us, you may have, and I can't say for certain, right, because interest rates change all the time, but you may have gotten maybe a slightly higher interest rate. Maybe it would have been the same, maybe it would have been better or worse. But one thing I can promise you is that we would have managed that mortgage much better, because we would have felt like it's our fiduciary responsibility to help you really work through your mortgage and financial needs. So even though you thought you got a better rate and saved money, that low rate cost you tens of thousands of dollars because you thought it was your responsibility to improve that. And with our clients, they believe it's ours. Does that make sense? And the kind of light went on in her head, and she goes, oh, okay, like this is more of a partnership. And that was enough for us to show our value. This was pre-Art of Homeownership, right? So that story you can tell to people and get them to realize, with our perfect mortgage promise in Art of Homeownership, right? This is one of the things that's going to make and save you money, right? It's not going to be getting an eighth lower, a quarter lower, or saving 1% on your commission. Another story is our investor client that we worked with, and say, look, one of the clients that we've worked with had 5 investment properties, all by a college down in San Diego. And we called him just to do an annual financial review, as we do for all of our clients. We started talking about some of his goals. We asked him about his investment properties, and we educated him on what an ADU is. Are you familiar with that? No. An ADU is an accessory dwelling unit that now you can add on to your property. Garage conversions, granny flats, casitas, basically adding space, adding living area. We showed him how he could convert all 5 garages in those investment properties into living space. And he's making $90,000 more per year because of our education, our advice, our guidance, and our ability to help him get those transactions done. Most mortgage companies, I would offer, no mortgage companies believe it's their responsibility to help their clients grow their wealth. They just provide debt when people need debt. So that's just one example of what we do for our clients and how we help them. Another example, we had a client who, was talking to a real estate agent, and she said they were unhappy with their current home. They wanted to move up. They just couldn't understand. They thought it was impossible. They went online, they looked at online calculators, and they said, this probably doesn't make sense. That real estate agent sent that client to us. We did a financial transition plan analysis. We showed them how they could not only transition up from their current home to the new home, but how they could utilize some of those proceeds, pay off some consumer debt, plan for kids' college education, plan for retirement, and still have the same exact payment on the home that they were going to live in for the next 10 plus years. Because again, we don't sell debt to people who just need it. We give advice and guidance for people who don't know what to do. And Mrs. Smith or Mr. Smith, I hate to tell you this, but there's going to be a lot of times over the next 10 years where you won't know what to do because you don't do this for a living. And that's where we come in handy. All right, and then you can talk, the last one I have here is our generational wealth planning seller. So we worked with someone who was planning on selling their home. They were already pre-approved with another lender. That other lender did not talk to them about what their parents were going to do, right? What was happening in their parents' life. We were able to ask the right questions and realize if they would have sold their home and bought and downsized to the home that they were thinking of, they would have been in a very challenging situation with their parents, who were going to be in an untenable financial situation within 2 years. So as opposed to doing that, they sold the home and actually bought a bigger home, which allowed them to bring their elderly parents back in with them and have an extra space for them. And it ended up saving them probably about $6,000 a month in long-term care and insurance and all these other areas that they would have had to have dealt with. And they ended up, getting into a bigger home. So when I tell you that, there's no such thing as an apples to apples comparison when it comes to picking a real estate agent or picking a mortgage lender. Now, you may believe that, a mortgage is one thing or another, or a real estate agent is one thing or another. And that is very often true, but that's not what we are. We're Art of Homeownership professionals, and this is how we help our clients. So lastly here, before we get into some of the objections or the concerns, is help your clients navigate alternatives, right? There's a lot to think about. You just have to show them that you'll help them navigate minefields and become more successful short-term, transactionally, and long-term. So I'm gonna kind of change directions here because I want to make sure we have time. Pinky, you're on the call, right? Let's unmute Pinky if we can. There we go. Brought her into the panelist.
I'm here. Thank you.
Hey there. How are you?
Hey, sorry. All right, here we go. Turn my camera on.
Good to see you.
You too.
So, I know you had some questions in regards to pricing concerns with clients. One thing that, and you guys will see this when we send out the slide deck, but I want everyone to try and get the word objection out of their head, right? So I hear this all the time. Yeah, our client, pricing price objections or rate objections or overcoming objections. In our world, that's not really a thing, right? Like there's definitely pricing concerns. There's concerns about buying or selling homes, but there's not an objection would be something you do in a courtroom, right? So when I put concerns, not objections, clients have valid concerns, right? They should not be seen as an obstacle to be overcome. It's not a them versus you reality. And this is not something Pinky said, by the way. I'm just bringing Pinky in because she had some questions here. So just realize, like, as soon as you start to realize, like, they don't have an objection here, they're just actually concerned, right? And it's my responsibility to educate them as to why I believe that I'm going to be the most valuable person in their life in regards to real estate and financial matters. And once I help them understand that and I solve for that concern, then I should be able to help them with the transaction. So try not to think of things in terms of objections. It's not a us versus them reality. It's an education versus lack of education reality. So I wanted to bring on in, and Pinky's just the first one here, but by all means, if you guys have pricing concerns or things you hear from clients on the first phone call, on the consultation, let me know and we'll kind of dig into those. So Pinky, what type of concerns do you hear from clients and how can we help you through those?
Yeah, so actually I'll give you one that I just had today.
Nice.
Yeah, we had one who we talked to them a year ago. I did the Dreams and Goals call with them, by the way.
Good.
A year ago. I did the Dreams and Goals call with them a year ago, offered to put them onto Art of Homeownership. They did not want to be on Art of Homeownership. I was like, I'll sign you up. They said, no, it's okay, don't. And they just called in this morning, maybe yesterday, and said, we found a house. What are your rates? So I had I did a consult with them. I said, okay, tell me what's going on, where you are. And because I had the Dreams and Goals call, it was really great because I was able to bring back some of what we talked about then. I said, I remember you talked about, hey, you wanted to retire immediately. Are you retired yet, right? Like we just joked about something like that. So they showed them that I was listening a year ago to the conversation, which I think was helpful. But it's still, I said, tell me what's important to you. What are your rates? What are your fees, right? We're shopping around. We're looking for lenders, basically. And so I took them down the path of understanding what's important to them. I said, tell me what you're looking for, whatever. And then told them a little bit about Art of Homeownership, how we're different. And I said, are these things important to you? And she said, well, really, that's nice. And that sounds like it'd be great. But, really right now, I just want to make sure that I'm getting the right cost and the right savings and there's no hidden fees, anything like that. But also really that the value that I'm paying right now is worthwhile. So I handled it I said, okay, great. As far as, the process and we've got all that. And I directed her to take a look at our reviews as well. I did the 7 questions that you have, right? The questions to ask other lenders. Yeah. So I gave her that list of questions to ask other lenders. I directed her to look at our reviews and then I, said, I'm going to send you the Art of Homeownership website. I said, take a look at all this. And if these are the things that are valuable to you, then I think we'd be a great fit to help you. If not, and really the rock bottom lowest rate is what's important right now, then I wish you all the best, basically, was kind of how I left it. So tell me what coaching you have on that, I guess.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that and being vulnerable with us. So there were a couple things that she had mentioned in there that I would have drilled a little bit deeper on. When she saed, I'm just trying to make sure I'm getting the best value, I would have stopped her right there.
Value. She said best cost, by the way.
Best cost, okay.
Yeah.
So I would have stopped and said, so what does best cost mean to you? Does that mean lowest? Right? Like if you're just looking for the absolute lowest interest rate out there, I want to try and educate you on what that means, right? So anybody, any lender can go lower than any other lender who wants to, right? It's same thing with real estate agents. Anybody can go as low as they want to. People can even lose money to do a transaction for you. You just have to ask yourself, at what point does it start becoming a disadvantage for you when people aren't earning revenue, when people are taking price concessions because you're kind of shopping against each other? Now, I believe you might think that you're looking at kind of an A-B proposition, right? A, you need a mortgage for a home. B, you want to get that mortgage and then you're done, right? When in reality, you should be looking at A to Z. And if you feel confident in you have to then explain A to Z, right? So estate planning, long-term generational wealth planning, tax planning, all the things that we do, right? How you're going to maintain the value of your home, how you're going to sell the home at the highest price, how you're going to be a educated home owner throughout the process on a monthly basis, who's going to be helping you manage the changes and evolution of your life. Like those things that you might be discounting at the moment are extremely important. And so let's say you save 1/8 of a point or 1/4 of a point, right? And that's $40 or $80. I'm not sure what the loan amount is, but let's say it's $80 a month, right? Roughly $1,000 a year, right? So $10,000 over 10 years. You have to ask yourself, is there an opportunity that we can make or save even more than that by working with the right mortgage professional? And I fully believe that there is, right? And so do all of our clients, which is why they use us. The reason why we're one of the number one lenders in the country, and anybody could say that, we top 1% or whatever, is because of our ability to help clients long-term. People don't use us because of the cheapest. They use us because they see the most of value in working with us short and long-term. Now, if you don't think you need those, or if those things don't speak to you, what I would do is I would give you questions to ask every other lender, like so the same way you did. And then what I'd love to do is follow up with you in a day or two and find out what those answers were. What level of confidence did they inspire with you? Or did they just show you how you could save $40 to $80? At that point, if we're still not the right fit, then that's completely okay. Like, again, my job is not to sell you on why we should be your financing partner. My job is to make sure that you get what you need, right? And if you're 100% confident, and this is where I always go to this slide. And so I'll just share my screen real quick here. Do you guys all see this?
Yeah.
So this is the Perfect Mortgage Promise page. I always share this screen with people. Mm-hmm. And I would say, if over the next 10, 15, 20 years, you're really confident, 100% confident, that you're going to ask yourself all these questions, and you're always going to know the exact answers to those questions as your life changes and evolves, which is, should I refinance my mortgage? Should I pay down my mortgage faster? Should I convert from adjustable to fixed or vice versa? Should I take cash out, or why and how? Should I move up? Should I move down? Can I stay in my home? Should I move out of the area? If I move, should I sell or rent, buy a second home, investment property, so on and so forth? If you're 100% confident that you can do all those, and you're going to nail, maximizing your tax benefits, understanding estate planning, making sure you're properly insured, making sure that your parents and children are set, and retirement planning is on point. If you are confident in all those things, and you're willing to take those all fully on your shoulders, then you probably do just need the cheapest mortgage. But one thing I'll tell you is that $80 a month, people would pay $500 a month to have the opportunity to get help and guidance and advice this way, because no one has ever created real wealth by saving $80 a month. Right? People create real wealth by working with advisors and people who guide them towards making more educated and smart financial decisions around real estate and finance. And I realize this is a massive departure from what any mortgage company has ever done. But again, this is why so many people are starting to realize, when we get a mortgage, we should demand more value out of our mortgage professionals, because now they know it exists. And then you just have to be okay letting them go. Like, it shouldn't shake your confidence one bit if that client goes somewhere else, because 1 out of 10 clients, and I'm making up that statistic, could be 1 out of 100, who knows? But there's always going to be clients that are just not going to see that big picture, and they just want to save as much as they can, because in the current state, that's as far as they can think, and they'll deal with the rest later. And they actually won't deal with the rest later, but they will trick themselves into believing they will. That should not have any impact on how we talk to the next client, right? Or how we show up for the next client or the next realtor partner or our past clients. That's a big part of what we're going to go over here a little bit later, which is the mindset part of our industry, is that so many people get upset or distraught, or they think, oh, my company's got too high of rates, or, I'm not in the best place, or, my realtors aren't this, or it's just, none of it's true. It's all a story we tell ourselves, right? It's just some people do not want/need what we offer. Most do. So I don't think you did anything wrong there. Maybe a couple different things, maybe showing this screen, but other than that, I think that you nailed it.
That's great. Thank you. And actually, if I could ask a follow-up.
Yeah, please.
On what you just said, because this is the other part of it that, in the spirit of what you said about some will, some won't, right? And we just got to keep moving on and talk to those that want what we have to offer. So when to let go, right? For example, like the example that I just gave you, right? So I put the ball in her cart, and you mentioned follow up in a day or two, but so my inclination was, as you said, I'm at peace if she doesn't want us to help us right now, right? Because in that sense, like, as you said, I want to focus on the people that love what we do here. Do I I always get torn, of course you want every client, but every client doesn't want us, and that's okay. So At what point would you recommend saying, how much follow-up do you do? And when do you know, they're clearly not a right fit? Let's move on.
Yeah. So some of it's managing your emotional energy, right? You don't want to keep,
Exactly.
beating your head against the wall. But so different based on their transactional needs. So in this case, she found a home that she wants to write an offer on. So one thing I would lean on is transactional commitment, like certainty of performance there, right? So I'm not a huge fan of certainty and speed, because everyone talks about certainty and speed. But when she found a home, one of my coaches tells me, create pain when pain should be created. And this is an instance where pain should be created. Like, she's not pre-approved at this point, correct?
I think she was by somebody else. Yeah.
Oh, somebody else pre-approved. Okay. So then I would say, look, are you writing it? And your market is probably not dissimilar to anybody else's, right? Million offers on every home, everything's going for over asking price. I would say, look, I know we talked about this last time, but are you fully underwritten, or are you just pre-approved? Like, are you going to have to write a 30-day offer with loan contingencies and everything else? Yeah, probably. Okay. Well, I don't know if that offer is going to get accepted, but unless you offer more, then I'm sorry that we weren't able to educate you as to how important that was. But one thing I can tell you is that if you really want, if you want a low rate, that's great, but a low rate without a house is not that helpful, right? Getting a home with a very competitive mortgage rate is actually much better. So let me tell you why our group is going to help you actually get that home, have a higher likelihood of getting your offer accepted, have a higher likelihood of getting that performance done, and ensuring you have an incredible experience throughout. So I would lean a little bit more on that, just because she's kind of in that mode right now.
Yeah.
And then I would say, look, because you're probably actively, you may even have an offer in, I'm not sure. And that offer may get accepted in the next 24 to 48 hours. Again, as I had mentioned last time, do your due diligence way in advance and pick the lender that you feel most confident in, not based upon what price or rate they're telling you, because that's going to change on a daily basis. Their company's rates will change on a daily basis. Just pick the person that you believe in, because that's going to give you a better likelihood of getting your offer accepted and having a much more successful transaction. At this point, obviously, you haven't done that. No big deal. We can't go back and change time, but do all of your shopping, call everybody you can, ask these questions. And you may not think these questions are that important, but they really are. Right? And just judge how that person answers those questions. And what I'll do is I'll follow up with you tomorrow. Let's say 3:00 tomorrow. I'll send you a calendar invite. We can go through what you've heard. We can go through what you've been told from other lenders. We can go through how they answer those questions. And look, if you come back to me and say somebody has a 1/8 of a point or 1/4 point but lower interest rate, and they didn't answer those questions well, but good enough for me to feel confident, then I will bless you to go ahead and go with that lender. It's, again, I'm not trying to sell you on me. What I'm trying to do is educate you on how important it is to work with someone like me. Mm. And so then you call her and she goes, no, I found somebody else. We're gonna go that direction. Great, no big deal. What I'm going to do is I'm going to follow up with you in about a week, because by that point, you should have your loan fully approved. You should remove contingencies. Appraisal should be back and should be in. You should be far along in the process to where you're almost clear to close and ready to close within about a week. So I'll follow up with you then. Do it. Follow up with her then. She's likely going to have a bad experience, right? No, we're not approved yet, or no, the appraisal's not back, and we're concerned, blah, blah, blah. You could ask if you would like to step in at that point, right? Be captain, save the day. If she says things are good enough and does not want you to step in, then say, look, I know your closing date is probably on the 21st, whatever it is. I'm going to follow up with you on the 22nd just to make sure everything went well. Want to make sure everything was good. Follow up on the 22nd, if she's closed or not, right? Have that conversation and say, look, I apologize, I wasn't able to to really explain our value or educate you on our value enough to you to understand it. But what I'd like to do is show you our value moving forward, because I believe that we'll be a really great resource and a great group to help you and your family moving forward. And my goal is that we are so valuable for you, and you see the difference between us as a lender and what your other lender will likely not even attempt to do, that we have the opportunity to help you understand when you should buy, sell, or finance homes in the future. And then just take that route. And none of it should create any sort of negativity. You should see it as completely positive, because they're going to see it as overwhelmingly positive. Like, no one in our world does that. Nobody takes the high road. Everyone's a scarcity thinker. If you don't work with me, screw you. We're going to go, I'll never talk to you again. First of all, that's negative energy. None of us should live that way, right? Let's give away what we have. Let's help people even though they don't see us. And then that's always going to give dividends long-term.
Makes sense. Thank you. Wonderful.
Yeah. Or anybody else? Any other objections for you, Pinky? Anything else you hear from clients? Anybody else got anything?
Those are definitely the big ones, I would say, that are, and they're not objections, they're concerns, Ryan.
Very true. I gotta speak my own language here.
But yeah, the biggest one is definitely around that. And then other than that, I think from the realtors, right, and our partners from that perspective of, sometimes we get that objection from them, like, are you, I've got so-and-so that's shopping. So I handle it, but any other new tips or anything from that perspective would be.
So the agent is asking you about rates? Is that what you're referring to?
The agent is asking about rates, or they're, I think it's not so much that they're asking about rates, but they're not supporting, I guess is probably the right word. They're not supporting why it's so important to not chase the lowest rate, right? Like I had a client who was like, I'm going to go with this one. I tell the realtor and they said, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, no, go have a conversation with the client, right? Like, don't you, like, that it's going to, they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. I wish we could have worked together.
Yeah. So the challenge there is that agent is thinking transactionally.
Yeah.
Right. So they're thinking, well, let's just, whoever they need to use to get this transaction done, because the agent wants to make sure, they don't want to rock the boat, and they don't want to, they want to make their money. It's how they feed their family. They don't understand how, if that client were to work with you, first of all, they have to be selfless, right? Meaning that they have to realize that you're actually going to improve the livelihood of that family long-term. They have to believe it. Secondly, they have to realize there's some selfishness they're going to have on how it would impact their business if that client did work with you, right? Because now you have the opportunity to take that one client, turn it into 4. You guys are co-branding, follow up that client. When that client wants to buy, sell, or finance a home moving forward, if they call that lender first and that lender does their job right, they're likely going to refer to a different agent. So that agent has potential leakage in their database because they're not partnered with people that are aligned with their business. And the opportunity for growth from that client diminishes substantially because you're not putting all your tools into place and all of your systems and talking to that client's company and talking to their CPA, financial planner, estate planning attorney. So they don't see growth. As soon as agents see that, as soon as they get it, every client goes to you, and they are very intentional about, look, the lowest rate doesn't always matter. Same way that the lowest commission doesn't matter, right? Like, what you need is long-term advice, guidance, and help, because that's what's going to make you successful. You don't need to nickel and dime and save everything. And I'm telling you this as your trusted real estate agent, because my fiduciary responsibility is to help ensure not only that you get transactional excellence, but long-term excellence, right? And, but I mean, there's not the same way there's not a lot of mortgage lenders that think that way. There's not a lot of real estate agents that think that way, right? So we have to find people who believe what we believe.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Pinky, I don't know if I think you had to run. I think
yes,
we wanted to bring you into the first part of it, but great seeing you. And
you thank you.
Thanks for all you're doing.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else have any questions, Any other pricing concerns that you're getting from clients, real estate agents, any other professionals that we want to go through? Otherwise, I'll just continue on kind of with the presentation here. Okay, cool. I'm gonna minimize this. Okay, so getting back to kind of where we left off, which was helping clients navigate alternatives. The first thing you want to do is you want to really avoid pricing concerns as a whole. You want to talk about art of homeownership early in the conversation to educate your client and really position yourself as an invaluable asset for the family. If you wait, and I've had a lot of people do this, and they're like, "Hey, mainly in my group, where they're like, I'm getting pricing concerns, and the client may go with another direction." And okay, well, what were the thoughts on art of homeownership? Was it going to help? I didn't really talk about it that much. It's like, okay, well, if you bring it up now, it's not going to be important to them because it wasn't important enough for you to talk about it early on. Right? So bringing up art of homeownership as a combatant to a pricing concern is a terrible idea. It makes it sound like you're like a used car salesman. Oh, the price is too high. Well, let me throw in some seat warmers. Right? Like, that's not what we're trying to accomplish. We're not throwing this in as like a package deal to make it better for you. This is fundamentally what we believe. This is who we are. And so if you don't talk about it early and they say, "Oh, well, I found somebody else who has a better rate." Well, did we talk about art of homeownership yet? Like, nope, too late. I would recommend you probably don't even bring it up at all at that point, because then it just cheapens it. And the client's like, well, if it's that important, why didn't I hear about this before? And I've had to have that conversation a couple of times with people. Not fun. Another thing people are going to look at is, there's not much parity in the mortgage business, right? There's a term called product parity, which is how do you tell the difference between two different products? And in the mortgage space and the real estate space, there's very little parity, right? It's commissions, percentages, and it's interest rates and fees. And that's what the parity is, right? So loan from company A, loan from company B look exactly the same. Client can't tell the difference except for what's obvious, which is rate and cost. So because most lenders and realtors do the exact same thing, or at least they say they do the exact same thing, which is, speed, service, price, how much experience they have in the market. Now, everybody talks about it, only some people do it, but the client's not going to know that till after the fact. So it's important that you give your customers insight, right? Which is information beyond the obvious, right? Getting them to go even deeper into understanding what you're doing. So information they currently don't have, right? A new perspective, a new model, a new way of looking at the market that they haven't considered. And I promise you, if you guys get good at that, your whole business will change. Your reason for waking up and being excited about coming to work will change, because you're not just a commodity anymore. And I was listening to one of the guys talking about the mortgage space was saying on a YouTube thing I was watching, he was saying, selling money is a commodity. And it absolutely is if that's all you're doing. But that's not all we're doing. But that's all that 99% of people are doing. Same thing with real estate agents. Selling homes is a commodity. It's like any other good or service. And if that's all you're doing, then yes, you are a commodity too. You should wear the badge proudly. But if you're adding more value, if you're committing to more, if that client ends up becoming more successful because of you, that is not a commodity. That is very different. Right? So give them that insight, give them information beyond what they normally would take in, beyond what's obvious, which is, commission versus commission, rate versus rate. So another part of that is if you show value first, then you don't really have to defend your price. I mean, you've already stepped into, this is who we are, this is what we do, this is what we offer. And it's likely going to be just as competitive as most, but there will always be someone who is willing to do it for less. And that's not just the case in the mortgage or real estate industry. That's every single industry since the early 1800s. So when you think through this process, you want to lead them to the consultation, right? Because that first phone call, if you stand into why you're unique, why you're not the cheapest, and why that's important to them, then that will get you to the consultation. Because most price concerns and most people who are very conscious of rate or fee or commission, they're going to address that on that first phone call, right? They're not going to want to waste time, energy. They're just going to, hey, are you the cheapest or not? And so you want to get past that by talking about what we do and say, look, we are very much different. Like this is not an apples to apples comparison. One thing that I can promise you is if we go through the consultation with you, you will see all of the ways in which you'll have less stress, you'll have a faster and more successful transaction, and you'll have much more long-term success in every aspect of real estate or finance by working with our group. Now, it's going to be hard for me to tell you this over the phone, and I don't know how much time you have, but if you'd like, I can go into it more now. But this consultation will not only give you the education, information, and analysis you need, but it will also help you understand what's different from our mortgage practice versus others. And again, we're not the #1 team in X city, or we're not top 10 in whatever because we're the cheapest. We are that because people find more value in working with us than any other mortgage company for the following reasons. Right. So that should open them up and then get them in for the consultation. So the discovery call first is important because that's where you ask the right questions. And you can even say, like, hey, have you gone through this before? Have you been pre-approved? Have you met with other realtors? What was that experience like? And they're going to tell you, and then you're going to say the same thing. I'm sorry you went through that. What do you mean you're sorry? I'm sorry that you worked with someone whose only interest was to sell you a loan or sell you a home. That is very much different than what you'll experience from us. Over the next couple minutes here, I'm going to ask you questions that I can almost guarantee that you were not asked by previous lenders or real estate agents. And to be honest, they have nothing to do with qualifying you for a mortgage or selling you a house. What they have a lot to do with is the way that we structure your mortgage, right? The type of home that we look for, the strategy that we put into this process, because those things are incredibly important. So my goal is not to sell you a loan or convince you to buy a house, right? I have two things I want to accomplish. One, I want to make sure that you have all the information and education you need to be confident in whatever decision you make. And two, I want to help you understand all the ways which we will help you now and into the future. All right, so that's again how you work on getting that consultation. That's how you get past that first kind of guard up, calling 50 people. Like, they put an hour on their calendar. They're going to call 10 lenders. They're going to call 10 realtors. Whoever says the lowest number is going to win. You have to disrupt that pattern. Right? You have to insert yourself into a way that gets them to realize, I didn't even think about that. And that's where the 12 disruptive questions come into play. So that's where go to the e-learning platform, put in 12 disruptive questions. They're both for real estate agents and for lenders. And that's how you can kind of overcome that. Next is, deliver the pre-purchase consultation as it should be. I've seen variations of it. I've seen people adjust it because maybe one is too long, right? Maybe they don't get enough connection with certain things. So I'm not opposed to people adjusting the way that they do the consultation with the client. Just make sure you hit on the key points and make sure you reach the connection that you're trying to accomplish. Because connecting and creating a relationship is one thing, and most people think that's the most important thing. But the Challenger Sale book and all the studies that were done will tell you that's absolutely not the case. It's important, very important, but not the most important. So that consultation should give them information they didn't have, should challenge their assessment, should educate them in a way they weren't aware of. And then what you want to talk about there is you want to talk about transactional advantages. Right. So that's part of what we talk about in that consultation. And you can find that. You just put in pre-purchase consultation in the e-learning platform. And this goes for realtors and lenders. Now, the one in there is mainly for loan officers, but it's easy to convert that to a lender, or I'm sorry, a realtor version. So you want to talk about transactional advantages, speed, certainty, getting the home, price, negotiations, those types of things. Then you want to talk about strategic setup and analysis, right? So what are they doing strategically to put you in the best home for the longest period of time, to help you financially in the most appropriate way, to make sure that you're not doing something that's going to be not in your financial best interest. Then you want to get into customer service, right? Expectation management, right? What should they expect? When should they expect it? How does it work? That's just a straight customer service, and that's where your reviews and your online kind of social currency comes into play. And then lastly is positioning you, your team, and Art of Home Ownership as the solution. Right. So if you do those things through the transaction, you'll find that more often than not, the client will say, okay, let's move forward. But you also want to ask for the commitment, right? So real estate agents, I'm envious of, right? Because they can sign the buyer broker agreement, which is, if you're going to buy a home, they're going to do it with us. Now, not everybody does that. Some people feel strange having the client commit to it, and some clients don't want to sign that document. And same thing with listing a home, right? If you want to work with us, sign here. Like, you get the commitment, or at least you can get the commitment. As lenders, we cannot, right? So we can only get a verbal commitment, right? And then just hope that that client continues to see our value proposition and we continue to stay there. So ask for the commitment verbally and explain what it means. And this is where the full underwritten approval comes into play. So in our group, we always let them know, hey, we'd love to fully underwrite your loan. Here's all the advantages. Here's all the reasons why. 99% of the time, they're going to say, yeah, that sounds great. Like, if that makes us look like cash and helps us get our offer accepted, then we need to do that. And I say, okay, so we're happy to help you with that. There's just 3 things we ask for. One is we want to let you know, you're going to have to do a lot of the heavy lifting now, as opposed to at the 11th hour before your loan's going to close. Most people are okay with that, but I just want to let you know, so you had expectations that, we're going to do a little bit more work up front than you may have ever done before if you just got pre-approved. Client goes, yep, no problem. 2, we just want to make sure that your plan is to find a home, write an offer, and be in a home in the next 30 to 60 days. And this is not for us to create urgency or, to try and make this happen faster at all. It's just that if we do all this work and it will expire, like credit will expire, your pay stubs, your bank statements, your W, like we'll have to do all that work again later and just kind of start over. So we'd rather, if you're not quite ready, not a problem, just let us know about a week before you are, and then we'll get that process started. But if you are ready now, we can go ahead and take that step, and just making sure that, we don't have to do double work and ask you to get us things multiple times. Yeah, no problem. We're ready. We definitely want to find a home and write offers. Okay, great. And lastly, we just want to make sure that you believe we're the right lending team to help you guys finance your home and help you well into the future. The reason I say that is because we've had clients, unfortunately, in the past that utilize us for this service, right? We give them this golden ticket. We help them get into the property. We call the listing agent. We do all the things that we're supposed to do to really give them a leg up in the marketplace and a competitive advantage. And they find an eighth of a better interest rate or a quarter of a better interest rate, and they end up changing directions. And so we don't make any money. Our processors work on this, our underwriters work on this. Like, we actually spend money we pay people to do all this work on your behalf, and we don't charge you for it. And the reason why is because we believe it's actually going to help you. Like, we know that it's going to help you save money on the price of the home. We know that it's going to, help you stand out, get an offer accepted, not have to go up and down the roller coaster. And so we just want to make sure that you're committed. Most of the time, you're going to get a yes. Sometimes you're going to get well, I appreciate that, but we're still talking to some other lenders and we're not sure. And that's great. Like, you've flushed it out. And at that point, it's your responsibility to then, get them to understand and like what reservations they have. So I'd be like, okay, totally understand, Mission. What are, just so I'm aware, because I may not have done a good enough job educating or advising, like, what are some of the concerns you may have? What are some of the things that are still outstanding that we didn't discuss? Well, I just, I'm not sure what your guys' rates are versus other people. We want to make sure that we're kind of getting the best deal. I understand it because I get that all the time. And I say, absolutely. So that's when you want to go into, from the mortgage space, you want to show mortgage-backed security. You want to show the candlesticks. You want to show how the market changes on a daily basis. You want to show that you can choose from the best price investors of the day. You're not like selling up a rate that you have, right? You have, flexibility in how you can help them achieve the best interest rate. So you really want to get into the analytics of that. And then you show them that perfect mortgage promise screen, like that I just showed Pinky. And then you ask, if they're confident in doing all that on their own. And if after all that, professional education and advice on interest rates and understanding, long-term, short-term, they still kind of aren't there, say, look, we actually encourage our clients to shop for other lenders. What we find oftentimes is, they will call other lenders and talk to them and then just realize that it's not an even playing field, right? Like, there's very many lenders out there that don't have financial education, don't understand the process. Their team isn't robust. Their process or system is not appropriate to help people get into homes. And they can feel it in that conversation, right? It is not a confidence inspiring conversation with someone. So what I'd love to do is help you with that. Here's 8 different questions, and you guys can go on the e-learning platform to get those questions. Please ask these questions every time you're talking to a mortgage lender or a real estate professional. And what I'd love to do is, why don't I follow up with you in 2 or 3 days, and try and have those conversations with people and let me know what your thoughts and feedback are. I can tell you kind of where our rates are today, but I'd be lying if I just said, here's a low rate, because it'll change tomorrow for better or for worse. And so if anybody ever tries to tell you, here's our rate, and this is what we can do, like, just know they're trying to sell you something. But we'll follow back up and love to get your thoughts. And when you do that, that communicates something to the client, which is you're confident enough to empower them to talk to other mortgage professionals, and your intentions are actually to help them get the best option possible. And again, just disassociate yourself from the energy of the outcome. If they end up going with another realtor or lender, don't take it as a personal affront, right? Don't, you definitely should do some, like a feedback loop on like what you could have potentially done better, how you could potentially educated them a little bit more. But at the end of the day, as I kind of said with Pinky, some people just aren't going to get it or don't want it. And that's fine. That's not your client. That's nothing that you did wrong. And that ends up being the best option for them, right? Now, time will tell if that's actually the case or not. But if you do it right, then you can get the next transaction to help them there. So, but more often than not, based upon my experience and our team's experience, they'll come back and say, look, we talked to the lenders. It's clear that you guys are head and shoulders, above them professionally and from a financial perspective. So, we definitely want to move forward. Let's go. Like that'll happen more often than not. And that's a really great feeling. That's a confidence inspiring feeling. So getting into, kind of concerns that your clients are going to have, some of the ones that we hear, just in case you guys don't have them, or how do you pay for all this without charging me a higher rate? Like, how do I get a home concierge and these, analytics on a monthly basis, and your team, you have someone on your team that does nothing but add value to my life every year, who just calls and does, like, you help me renovate my home prior to selling it at no cost. It sounds like it costs a lot of money to run this. How can you do this without being more expensive than other people? And if you don't get that question, you're probably not selling you're probably not like showing them what you do well enough or educating them as to what you do, because most people will come to that. Like, it's like if someone came to you and said, okay, well, you can buy this Honda, but you can have a Ferrari at the same price. And they're like, that doesn't make sense. I don't get it. It's not penciling. Right. So it's the same thing, right? What we're selling is very much more valuable than other lenders or realtors. So if we're doing it at the same price, they're wondering, like, where are you making, like, do I have to pay a fee for this service every year? Is this hidden in the closing costs? And you need to assure them that none of that is the case. Say, we are just as competitive, if not more competitive, than every other mortgage lender in the country or real estate agent in the country. And the fact that we're number one in Orange County and in top 100 in the country will get you to understand, like, will help you understand, we couldn't, if we were more expensive than other people, then we wouldn't have achieved that. People, they wouldn't want to pay more for this type of service. So what we've really done is we've stayed just as competitive, if not more. We've just reallocated our marketing dollars. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with a company called Zappos, right? Zappos sells shoes online. And, we took this concept from them, which was, your customer service and the value you add to your clients can and should be seen as marketing dollars. And so, whereas most companies spend a ton of money on online ads and billboards and TV, radio commercials, or the Super Bowl commercials, and they don't add any value to their client, they're just churning a lot of clients like a lawnmower without a bag. We look at it differently. We invest in our clients. We take the same marketing dollars that we would use and invest back into our clients to make sure that you're more successful, because we don't measure our success on how many loans we sell, like most mortgage companies or real estate agents. We measure our success based upon how successful our clients become. And that no offense, but you won't become as successful without our continual guidance and advice, because we have 5 years of history of doing this, showing how successful our clients have become, and their feedback is that we wouldn't have gotten here without you. So know that there's nothing more that we're charging. We're just reallocating marketing dollars back into making our clients more successful. And guess what? Because we help make you more successful, you will tell all your friends and family and coworkers that there's a better way to get a mortgage, and people should demand more from their real estate and mortgage professionals, and we'll always have the opportunity to help you and your family for years to come. So the retention of our clients, the repeat business from our clients, and the referrals we get from our clients, and how we help your employer and how we help your business, your other trusted professionals, that's really how our business has done what it's done. So that's how you handle that. Now, how are you doing this? And then we already talked about, I don't need all those things. I'm just looking for the best rate. That was kind of Pinky's thing that we went over. So most of this has already been talked about. You can also talk to your clients about profit margin. You can say, look, there's a difference between, people selling higher rates without any additional value, which is actually what we're trying to accomplish. as a mortgage company, we're trying to get rid of every mortgage company who's not the absolute cheapest without being more valuable, which is 99% of them. Some out there will quote, will try and be the cheapest. That's okay. There's a business model there. But others just charge higher rates with no additional value, right? There's nothing else that they'll actually provide you. So we actually want people to realize from a profit margin perspective, we probably make less, like even maybe similar or less than what the cheapest person makes, because the additional revenue that we may create by not being the cheapest is reinvested back into you. And here's how we do it. So another way to kind of explain our process. Let's see. Lastly, here is just, we have 4 minutes left. It's just shifting your mindset to a confident mindset. It has been, when I was producing a really high level, I think we did 150 some odd $1 million in 2016. Now, this is prior to Art of Homeownership, in 2017, prior to Art of Homeownership. And I still was not confident. I would go to coaching groups and I would go to talk to other loan officers. I'm like, man, I really struggle with the fact that, we're selling higher rates than what people could get if they went to ABC Online. And it wasn't until we shifted to this value-based business model where we invest in the client's success. We hire, we have a post-closing manager who does all of our follow-up with our clients. We've invested in all these different platforms, and we really, make the commitment, and we scale it, right? If you go into your CRM in Daily AI, there's the gamification of that client's success, right? We call it the financial game board. And you can see year over year how much that person's success is improving, right? We're actually gamifying it even more to give them a percentage, like a financial freedom score percentage. So you'll actually be able to show your clients how they're improving towards financial freedom as a percentage each year, which I'm super excited about. So realize that if you believe that by helping that client with a real estate transaction or a mortgage transaction, that they're actually helping you, that's more of a desperate way of coming at it. You have to fully understand that you are helping them, right? And that's by creating value, that's by being intentional. So, people think if you're overconfident, then you're arrogant and, you have blind spots. I would say that confidence comes from standing firm in your commitment to help people, and then knowing you actually do it, because there is way too many real estate agents and way too many mortgage professionals that say, we have clients for life, we do this and that, we love helping people, and they don't actually do anything before the transaction or after the transaction. They just wait for the transaction to show up. As a group and as a community, we can solve for that, right? We can fix that, and we can competently stand on the fact that it's who we are, it's what we do. And more often than not, people will want that. They just have to know it exists first. Any questions, comments, or feedback? See, we got one thing here. Is there a script in Art of Homeownership learning for the initial call you get when an agent has them call you to be qualified? How deep do you go into AOH on initial call? Yes, Ron. So I think you're talking about the initial dreams and goals call script, but I don't think you are at the same time. If you want to unmute yourself, or if we want to bring Ron in so we can answer that question for him. When an agent has them call you to be qualified. Ron, you there?
Hey, Ryan, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. Yeah, I was just, when you get that initial call, do you go through the whole hopes and dreams conversation, the very first call like that? And how often is that?
First call with the client?
Yeah. So you just got a call. My agent said, we need to be pre-qualified. Can we talk to you? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, well, first of all, I'd ask them about their timing. So we can role play. I'd say, Ron, thank you so much for the phone call. Really excited to help you and your family. Did Susie, your real estate agent, did she talk to you about kind of our process and our unique way of helping our clients?
Nice. Okay.
And then you would say either yes or no. More often than not, no.
Right.
And you'd say, okay, well, so our process is different than most, right? Most mortgage lenders are just going to try and, sell you a loan and pre-approve you and get you into a house. We are very much different in the fact that we want to make sure that we're making sure you're educated, make sure you have all the information you need to be confident whatever decision you make, helping you understand, purchase prices, down payment amounts, monthly payments, making sure it fits into short-term, long-term budgeting goals. So there's a lot that we do. The first part of that process is doing what we call it kind of a dreams and goals call. So really understanding what your situation is, what you're trying to do now, what your goals are for the future. And then from there, we would actually schedule a time to do the pre-purchase consultation, which takes about 45 minutes to an hour or so. This initial call usually takes about 20 minutes or so. Do you have time for that now, or should we schedule that for a little bit later today? I don't know how much time you have at the moment.
Nice.
And then kind of let them choose the path from there. But you definitely always want to explain the process. And then as you're going through the dreams and goals call, you start to layer in Art of Homeownership as they say what their goals are. This is how we help with this. Our Art of Homeownership platform helps with that. We're going to go more into this in the consultation. You keep teasing the consultation. And by the end of it, they're probably just like, man, I can't wait for this consultation because it sounds like I'm going to be the smartest guy in the room and it's going to solve all my problems. Right. So that's kind of the build up to it.